Now, in OET writing, okay, now there is something
Yeah.
which you need to be very clear in OET writing is identifying the target reader. Okay, you need to identify the target reader very clear. Target reader is the person to whom you are writing.
Yeah.
Okay. Now let me write it
Yeah.
on the screen so it will be more
Yeah.
clear to you. Okay. Now, when you're
Okay.
doing your OET writing, okay, just a minute. Okay.
Yeah.
I think what I'm doing is I'm muting your voice because there is certain background noise. So if you have doubt in
Okay.
between, you can just unmute and ask. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, OET writing. When we do our OET writing, there are certain things which we need to be very clear. Is the first thing is you should be able to identify in the initial 5 minutes that who is your target reader. Now, target reader means the person to whom you're writing. Now, this person can be a medical, that is any medical professional. This person can be a social worker, non-medical person, social worker, or maybe you're writing it to a family doctor. There's also scenarios where you need to understand. Now, if you understand the target reader's point of view, what do I mean by that is that if you understand who the reader is, now you know I'm writing it to a, for example, you're writing a letter to the neurologist. Okay. Now, if you're writing a letter to the neurologist, think on his point of view, what kind of information the neurologist would require me to provide him for this patient. If you understand that point of view, that is something very clear. Now, if you're writing it to a family doctor, for example. Now, if you're writing it to a family doctor, it is very clear that the past medical history, the family doctor may be aware. Yes, that's very sure because he is the family doctor of that particular patient. So, past medical history would be very clear to him. He will be very much aware about the past medical history of the patient, but the current medical history, which was the patient when he was there with you, the current medical history he may not be aware of, which means the current treatment what you have given, the current response what patient had taken, all those things he may not be aware. So you will be focusing more on the current medical history rather on the past medical history. So if you're writing it to a family doctor, you will exclude the past medical history. But if you're writing it on behalf of someone to a doctor, when the patient does not know, sorry, the doctor does not know about the patient, at that point of time, you will definitely involve the past and the current medical history. But otherwise, if you're writing it to a family doctor, only the current medical history, which means when the patient was there with you in the hospital, at that point of time, whatever the condition of the patient was and whatever the condition of the patient or what kind of progress he has gone through, all those progress you'll try to involve in this situation. Okay, you'll try to involve that in this letter. Now, if you're writing it to a social worker, now please understand he's a non-medical person, which means your purpose, whatever you're writing, that is your third paragraph and your fourth paragraph, that is your current situation of the patient and your recommendations and requests, what you have for the social worker, that need to be in detail. The history of the patient, if there is anything social history you see, which need to be informed, or anything which is more, like for example, patient had a fracture, or patient had an amputation. So this is something more, you can say precise, which a person should know. Even if he's a non-medical person, he can understand what is amputation or he can understand what is a fracture. That is a very common term which we use for a layman. Now, please understand what they are trying to understand from this kind of scenarios is like when you speak to a non-medical person, when you convey something to a non-medical person, like for example, when you speak to a patient's relative, what kind of communication ability you put forward and how well you can put it in simple layman's language and you can present it in front of a non-medical person. So if you're writing it to a social worker, here the values will be of no importance. Values as in the values of the blood test, the medical values what we may have a blood sugar level, a hemoglobin level, whatever we have it in the case notes, all those informations will not be required at all. Being very clear with it. That is not at all required when you write it to a social worker. Your focus should be about the current medical situation, nothing much in detail in terms of medicine. Don't write anything in detail. Only write your purpose. Currently, what is the situation of the patient in layman's language means as simple as possible. Okay, one more thing when you do your OET writing, there is something which you need to be very clear about it is the person who is correcting your paper, the invigilator or the assessor of your writing, is also a non medical person. So please understand your values, your blood values, all those values are not at all required. Try to write it as simple as possible. Please understand this is not your medical examination. This is just your writing English language exam. So that is something which you need to be very clear about. Okay, so in terms when you're writing it to a medical person, it should involve everything apart from the family doctor or to a person who already knows the history of the patient. Do not involve the past medical history because he may be aware about it. Involve the current medical history and your requests and recommendations. That is your fourth paragraph. So you may be aware the paragraph, the way it has been displayed, that is like the first paragraph, that is an overview where we have those five, what do you say, five W's. That is something what we should be focusing on. Then we have second paragraph. Now, if you're writing it to a social worker or a medical, non-medical person, this is only about the initial health of the patient, which does not mean the history, but initially when patient arrived to you, at that point of time, what was the condition of the patient? He may not be aware, so that you can involve in the second paragraph. And third is your recent treatment and progress. Recent treatment and progress. Okay. Now, fourth one is called as request and recommendations. Okay, that is whatever request you have towards the social worker or maybe towards the family doctor. You want the further assessment or you want to inform him this is what the condition of the patient is right now and he would require these all support from you. You're trying to inform him what he should do for the patient or what the patient should do in future. Okay. Then you have the fifth one, that is your closing. That is same. If you need any, you're trying to offer an help, and if you need any further clarification, please do not hesitate to contact me. Okay, that's all to be done. Okay, what I would suggest is, Ebin, you should write more now. Okay, now let me talk to you, Ebin. Ebin, I'm just unmuting you. Yeah, tell me. Is
Yeah.
it still here?
Yeah.
Is it
Exactly.
here? Okay. What other doubts you
Yeah.
have in writing?
The thing is actually for the question paper they may ask like multiple visits, no?
Mm-hmm.
Multiple visits, and first two visits maybe I mean almost same complaints, and the
Correct.
third and fourth maybe suppose
Uh-huh.
maybe with left knee pain, and the fourth visit maybe with some other headache or something,
Mm-hmm.
and the last two visit maybe almost same.
Mm-hmm.
So in that situation, how can I paraphrase these all things?
Yes, correct. That's a good question. When you have multiple events, what you should be doing. So, for example, you
Yeah.
have 7 to 8 days. So, what you need to do is your first paragraph will remain the same. Okay, that is an
Yeah.
overview. Okay, that there is
Yeah.
no change in that. But your second and third
Yeah.
will change. Your second paragraph, what you'll be doing is in this kind of letters, when you see there are multiple, when mostly there will be no medical and social history given. They will only give you the dates. Okay, and even if
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
give you the
Yeah.
medical history, they'll give you only one sentence, or they say one history they will give you, or they'll not give you more than that. So in the second
Yeah.
paragraph, what you need to do is you describe most of the time, describe the first two events. Okay, describe the first two
Okay.
events, and this will be the required one if it is more than
Yeah.
five. And your third paragraph, you describe the last two events because in between whatever events is been given, you will find that's almost similar and that does not pay much importance. Okay.
Okay.
Third paragraph,
Okay.
you describe the last two events. The second paragraph describe the first two events, and your fourth paragraph remains the same. That is called as request and recommendations. What you have for the person. So only your first and fourth remains the same for all the letters. Your second and third paragraph keeps on changing. Now there is also one more scenario wherein you will see they will give you 7 to 10 dates. They may be like approximate 10 dates, and you will see the first 8 dates. If you see, 8 dates are something irrelevant. I have seen certain
Okay.
question papers wherein all the first 8 dates are completely irrelevant and only the last
Okay.
2 dates are something relevant. Now, for example,
Okay.
you will see the first 8 dates is related to a fracture, sore eyes, left sore eye, left shoulder sore, this kind of things you will see. And the last 2 dates, all of a sudden, you will see patient came with tiredness, patient has been diagnosed with type 2 diabetes, and she has been ordered a blood test. And in the last date, you will see
Okay.
the blood test has come and she's been confirmed with the diagnosis of type 2 diabetes. So in that case, only the
Oh,
important dates are last two events. So what you'll do is,
okay.
second paragraph, you will describe the second last event. Okay, I'll just edit it over here. You just
Yeah.
describe the second last event, and
Okay.
over here you will describe the last event. Okay, the second last event, that is the initial when he was presented with the current complaint. What was the situation and what
Okay.
you have done for the patient? And here you will just
Okay.
describe the last event. So what I
Okay.
am trying to say from this is, it's not
Yeah.
already planned that it should be the first two and the last two. You need to read the
Okay.
question and understand which one is more relevant according to the
Okay.
current situation. You need to first understand
Okay.
what is the current situation. That is something which need
Yeah.
to be very clear with you. Okay, this is
Okay.
something which you
Yeah.
need to
Okay.
be really clear with, and this will definitely help you to achieve what is required in writing. Okay, so this is
Okay.
something which is
Okay.
expected from you to do, and you should be doing that. Okay.
Okay.